To the jurors, this case seemed like it was ironclad, open and shut, wrapped with a big fat bow. But what if he didn't do it? This is going to start my series of videos where I reopen the case of Scott Peterson. I've been warning you I was going to do this, and I've been doing some research, and I have found that there are very good arguments on both sides. And what I'm going to present to you over the course of gosh knows how many videos, I'm going to try to present to you point and then counterpoint. So here's what one side says he does, but here's how you could explain it away, and let you decide what you think. Now, there have already been a ton of people in my comments who've said, I think he's innocent from the very get-go. I think he was railroaded. There was no physical evidence. There were other people that said, are you fucking kidding me? He's guilty as sin, and I don't want to hear another word about it. Either way, let me just say this now. If this isn't your jam, you can just scroll on. You don't have to come in and be a douche canoe. I don't need to hear all that. But if you truly want to go through this and you truly want to hear both sides of this story and you want to help get to the bottom of this, and maybe it won't change your mind, maybe it will, but I'm going to examine this over the course of several videos leading up to the Scott Peterson documentary that is airing on Peacock on August 20th. Now, let me just start by saying this. I've always thought he was guilty. And I just couldn't explain why, but I just felt like I just know it. I just know it in my gut. And there's so many people that say, how could you think that if there's no physical evidence? I'm doing this partially because I feel like I owe this to myself. If you follow me, you've seen 30-something videos that I've made on Karen Reed, where I have defended with my last breath her innocence because I've said there's no physical evidence that ties her to this death. And there's plenty of people that say, well, you know what? There was no evidence tying Scott Peterson to his wife's death either. And I'm going to be very honest with you, as I've been doing the research, they're right. This case was tried entirely on circumstantial evidence. There is zero forensic evidence tying Scott to the murder of his wife and unborn child. So it's a little bit of a gut punch for all those of it that thought he was guilty. And there's people that just think he's fucking creepy. And he is, by the way. He is fucking creepy. He's a cheater and a liar and a disgusting slob of a human being. But is he a murderer? And although I'm not intending to try and prove him innocent, what I can say is I do question whether or not he got a fair trial. And even the most crooked, evil, devious, guilty motherfucker deserves a fair trial. And if you are a lawyer or a cop or a judge and you've got a really good case and put someone away, then why do you have to deliberately leave out evidence? Why do you have to be deceptive? Why do you have to hide things? Why do you have to keep things from the defense? You wouldn't have to if you had an ironclad case. So I'm going to spend the next couple of weeks tearing this thing apart. You're welcome to watch all. You don't have to pay any attention to me if you don't want to. It's up to you. So for those of you who don't remember, let's just kind of go back to the beginning and give a recap. Scott and Lacey Peterson were a married couple that lived in Modesto, California. Scott was a fertilizer salesman. He was 30 years old. Lacey was a substitute teacher. She was 27. They were married in 1997, and her murder took place in December of 2002. She was at the time 8 months pregnant with a son that they had already named Connor. Let me walk you through the timeline of events, and bear with me because I've got it written down. I don't want to screw anything up. So we are talking about Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2002. Both of the Petersons wake up around 7 a.m. Between 8 and 8:45 a.m., there's a couple of things happening around the house. So Lacey's doing a little bit of online shopping. She's gone to the Gap and one other spot to look for an umbrella. She's doing online shopping. They have breakfast together. They watch some TV, and it's noted that they were watching a Martha Stewart program that comes into play later. The plans for the day are this. Scott's going to go fishing. He's got a newer fishing boat that he's never taken out on the water. So today's going to be the day he takes it on the water for the first time. And Lacey was going to keep doing what she was doing. She was going to clean the house. She was going to walk the dogs. She was going to do a little bit more shopping, just a basic day. And then they were supposed to go to Lacey's parents for dinner that evening because it is Christmas Eve. Shortly before Scott leaves the house, Lacey does ask him to fill up a mop bucket for her because she's 8 months pregnant. So he fills up the mop bucket and leaves it in the kitchen for her. Around 9:50 that morning, Scott leaves the house and he drives the 3 miles to where he has a warehouse. He's a fertilizer salesman, where he keeps all the the fertilizer, but that's where he also keeps his boat. And so he spends about an hour there. So he's there between 10 and 11, and he spends some time doing some work emails and just kind of following up on some administrative stuff. And then when he's done with that, he hooks up his boat trailer to his truck and he heads to the marina. Now, just for reference, I want to show you the boat we're talking about because it comes up a lot, and I want to show you this boat. Now, this isn't Scott's exact boat, but this is what it looked like. It was a 14-foot metal fishing boat with a motor in the back and a couple rows of seats in it. So I need you to see this because people sometimes think when you say fishing boat, people picture one of those big, huge double-decker ones. The reason I'm showing you this was because this is how the police say Scott took his wife's body and dumped it in the San Francisco Bay. So I just want you to see this so you can kind of see the wide open space of it. At about 11:15, Scott drives to the Berkeley Marina. It's about 1 hour and 37 minutes from the house. So he does arrive at 12:54 p.m. and there is a receipt with a timestamp from his parking. And there were other witnesses that saw him fishes for a little while. And then at 2:15, he gets in the car to head home. Now he's running late. So he calls Lacey. He leaves her a message about a gift basket that he needs her to go pick up from the store because he's not going to be back on time. At 3:25, he stops to get gas. At 3:52, he calls her again. This time he doesn't leave a message, but there is a record of the phone call. Between 4:30 and 4:45, Scott arrives at home. He sees his wife's car in the driveway. He goes in the house. He, throws his clothes in the wash. He gets in the shower. He walks around the house. He realizes, wait, she's not here. The dog is in the backyard. I'll talk more about the dog later. But really, Scott starts to realize, okay, she's not here. I wonder if her mom came and picked her up and took her over to her house early. So at 5:17, Scott calls Lacey's mom. They say, no, Lacey's not here, Scott. So Scott says, okay. He starts going around to the neighbors and seeing if she's at any of the neighbors' houses. At 5:47, a guy named Ron Gransky, who is Lacey's, they call him stepfather, but I don't know, to be honest with you, if he is married to Lacey's mom or they're just longtime partners, but we'll call him stepdad just because it's easier. His name's Ron Gransky, and he calls 911 and reports that Lacey might be missing, and it's fearful because she's 8 months pregnant. So this is an elevated case. By 6:10, the police arrive at the Petersons' home. I'll go into this in the next video, but when the police arrive on scene, they almost immediately start to feel like this is suspicious, this could be a homicide, and they really pretty quickly identify that maybe Scott had something to do with his wife's disappearance. They continue to investigate, particularly Scott, over the course of the next couple of months. There's a whole lot of stuff about a mistress and other stuff that I'm going to fill you in on. But for now, let me just finish out this timeline. On April 14th, the body of Lacey Peterson is found along the eastern shore of San Francisco Bay. And trigger alert, please, because this is going to be grisly, but these are the facts. The torso, it's only the torso that they find. There is no head. Both arms are missing from the elbow down. One leg is missing from the knee down, and a foot is missing off of her other leg. All of her organs are missing with the exception of part of her uterus. Baby Connor is found a day later, about a mile away from where Lacey was found. His umbilical cord is still attached, but it shows signs of tearing. April 18th, DNA verifies that it is Lacey and Connor Peterson, and Scott Peterson is arrested that exact same day. On April 21st, he is first arraigned for first-degree murder in the death of Lacey and second-degree murder in the death of Connor. His trial lasts for 5 months. It goes from June 1st to November 3rd, and on November 12th of 2004, Scott Peterson is found guilty on both murder charges. He was sentenced to the death penalty by lethal injection. He has since filed 2 appeals, and now the LA Innocence Project has taken up his case. So that's the timeline. Please come back and hear all about this case.